Discover the incredible journey of the new Cruzeiro owner and the life-changing Supermercados BH. Marcus stood outside his modest home, the sunlight glowing on the new Cruzeiro gifted by a family friend, hope shining on four wheels. Its faded paint hardly mattered. It was a symbol of new beginnings after the dark cloud of losing Emily. Just 2 years ago, laughter filled this driveway, vibrant with her warmth. Now, it echoed with memories as Mia and Noah raced their bikes, oblivious to the heavy heart their father carried. "Dad, look at me," Mia cried, her pigtails bouncing as she zoomed past him, her laughter infectious. Noah was right behind her, trying to mimic his sister but losing balance and tumbling onto the grass. Marcus chuckled, shaking off shadows for a moment. The kids needed him to be strong, despite grief squeezing his chest like a vice. Underneath the modest facade, Marcus dreamed of opening his own repair shop, a haven for fixing cars and building lives, a dream that felt out of reach. The long hours at the auto repair shop were draining, each day blending into the next like paint splatters on a canvas of uncertainty. The Cruzeiro sparked a fire in him, a reminder that change was possible. One afternoon, while grabbing groceries at Supermercados BH, he ran into Rosa. She had a smile that lit up the aisle, full of warmth like freshly baked bread. They shared stories, both battling life's challenges, her family's struggles mingled with his own. "We're in this together," she said once, her hand on his arm. It was a simple gesture, yet it melted away some of his burdens. They forged a bond, both single parents fighting for their children's futures. But trouble stirred when news arrived that a developer wanted to bulldoze the heart of the community for a flashy complex. Right over Supermercados BH. Marcus felt a wave of anger wash over him, his thoughts racing. This wasn't just a store. It was a lifeline, a connection for families like his. Gathering in the town gym, the air filled with the buzz of worried voices and urgent conversations. Tension crackled in the atmosphere like static before a storm. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Marcus stood among the crowd, fear creeping in. As the developer strolled in, their confident smirk grated against the collective worry radiating from the room. Marcus looked at Rosa, her eyes steady and determined. A buzz of conversation surrounded them as others voiced their concerns. Yet he felt his heart beat faster, his mind screaming for him to join in. Would he stay silent and allow yet another piece of his life to slip away? Just as he felt the urge to speak, he glanced over the mayor sitting stoically, a mixture of hope and resignation forming in the air. A heaviness enveloped him. Could they really fight back? For his kids, he had to try. Gathering courage, he inhaled deeply, ready to step forward into the unknown and ignite the spark of resistance. Would his voice be enough to light the way forward in this battle? Marcus steadied himself, heart racing. He felt like he was teetering on a tightrope, above a chasm of uncertainty. Would he find the words to rally his community, or would his fears silence him? "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice boomed from the front. It was the developer, confidently taking the stage, ready to sugarcoat his plans for the flashy complex that threatened the essence of their lives. Marcus frowned. This man didn't know them. He didn't know their struggles or the importance of the market and the community it fostered. As the developer spoke about progress and opportunity, Marcus glanced at the crowd. He saw familiar faces, neighbors, parents, friends, each reflecting a mixture of anxiety and determination. They had built lives around that supermarket. It was where they exchanged stories, formed friendships, and fed their families. Supermercados BH wasn't just a grocery store. It was part of their identity, right? Rosa leaned in closer, her voice just above a whisper, flickering with a spark of confidence. "We can't let him take everything from us." The truth of her words hung in the air, and when she squeezed Marcus's hand, Everything shifted inside him. "I need to say something," he declared, his voice trembling slightly but rising like a phoenix. He took a step forward, the eyes in the room slowly turning to him. A thick silence layered over the crowd. Would they listen? His gut twisted and he pressed on. "Supermercados BH isn't just a place to shop. It's a home for our community." His words burst out with unexpected fervor. "It's where we check in, having lived through storms together. It's a beacon of hope for our kids growing up. A place where they can learn resilience, compassion, and unity." The room surged with murmurs, some nodding in agreement, others turning towards the developer with newfound defiance. A flicker of hope danced in Marcus's chest. We've weathered so much, and we're not about to let corporate greed erase the heart of our community." His voice carried now, empowered by the rising emotion around him. "If we stand together, we can fight this. We owe it to our children." Another round of murmurs rippled through the crowd, now charged with energy. Marcus locked eyes with Rosa, who smiled with pride. "Let us show them what we're made of," a voice from the back shouted, and an eruption of clapping and shouting filled the gym. The developer's smirk faltered as the energy shifted against him. Marcus's heart soared. Had he really found his voice? As the meeting turned into a rallying cry for their community, Marcus felt something shift inside him. Perhaps the dream of opening his repair shop wasn't just a distant fantasy. With this sense of unity, maybe he could make more than just repairs. Maybe he could build something real, something that mattered. As the night wore on, Marcus left with Rosa and the kids, their spirits soaring. But just before stepping into the Cruzeiro, he received a notification on his phone. The developer had something unexpected planned for the next town meeting. Something that could change everything. Fear and anticipation knotted in his stomach. What were they up against? Would they truly be able to stand strong? "Next meeting, we're going to need every voice," Marcus vowed. How far could this fight go? Could they turn the tide? Or were they just stoking the flames of a battle yet to come? The next day dawned with a brightness that felt almost surreal. The sun spilled through Marcus's window, but as he woke, the events of last night replayed in his mind like a gripping movie. The cheers, the screaming, the faces of his neighbors still burning with passion. But so was the developer's looming threat. With that came a tightening in his chest. As he prepared breakfast, his hands moved on autopilot. His mind, however, was racing. He couldn't shake the thought of the developer's next move. What could possibly be worse than the plans he had already laid out? Would they try to bulldoze their beloved supermarket? Marcus felt a pang of anger. The idea of that place being torn down was more than just a loss. It felt like an attack on everything they had fought to build, everything they cherished. "Silly me," Rosa chuckled lightly from the table, catching a glimpse of his furrowed brow. "You've got that thinking face again. Don't worry, we'll figure it out together." Her words were like a soothing balm, washing away some of that anxiety. But it was still there, bubbling beneath the surface. After breakfast, he decided to involve the community more. He grabbed a pen and paper, jotting down a list of people he wanted to include. They needed a collective voice, an organized group that could confront the developer head-on. This was not just about fighting. It was about creating a vision of what their community stood for and what they wanted for the future. He stepped outside, hopeful. The streets were buzzing with life, children playing, couples chatting, the sweet sound of laughter echoing. Every face felt familiar, a piece of the mosaic that made up their neighborhood. But the comfort of that familiarity was disrupted as he spotted a "for sale" sign at the old mechanic shop down the street, abandoned and deteriorating. The thought hit him like a ton of bricks. What if they didn't just lose Supermercados BH? What if this was the beginning of an avalanche that could sweep away everything? "Hey, Marcus, you heading to that town meeting later?" Tom, the friendly barista from the cafe, called out across the street, his voice bright. "Yeah, I am." Marcus nodded. "We're going to need all hands on deck." Tom's brow furrowed thoughtfully. "Count me in. We can't lose our community. Let us make sure the developer knows who he is up against." By the time he returned home, he felt a growing determination within. This wasn't just a grocery store. It was a lifeline, and defending it would mean defending everything they had built together. That evening, as he gathered with Rosa and the kids at the kitchen table to discuss ways to raise awareness, his phone buzzed again. The message sent a chill down his spine. A tip that the developer was planning a huge rally of his own, one that could attract media attention and sway public opinion. A knot tightened in Marcus's stomach as he stared at the screen. What were they up against? Time was running out and they couldn't afford to back down now. We need a plan. Fast. Let us meet with everyone tomorrow, Rosa suggested, eyes sparkling with determination. But deep down, Marcus felt the weight of doubt creeping back in. Did they stand a chance against such a powerful force? Whatever happens, we must stand together, he replied, not quite sure of his conviction as they finished dinner. His resolve wavered between fear and hope. How would they bring their community together to face this monumental hurdle? The thought lingered as he stepped out into the cool evening air, brimming with both determination and a gnawing dread. What they faced was much bigger than they had anticipated. And before they could fight back, they needed to know the stakes. Would they unravel the developer's plan? Or were they entering a battle that could consume them all? As dawn broke again, the world felt heavy around Marcus. The air was thick with urgency, and worries gnawed at his mind. He had a community to rally, but how could they compete with the developer's power? What if their voices got drowned out in the sea of corporate interests? Breakfast was quieter that morning. Rosa tried to inject some cheer by cracking jokes about the kids' sleep habits, but Marcus could hardly focus on her words. Instead, he looked out the window, where the sunlight streamed in, casting bright patterns on the kitchen floor. Outside, people were beginning to stir again. A couple of joggers passed by, and he could hear the faint sounds of laughter coming from a nearby yard. But he felt a tension building in the pit of his stomach. Marcus? Rosa's voice pulled him back. Are you okay? Yeah, just thinking. He forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Let us bring the kids to that meeting. They should hear this too, she suggested. Determination etched on her face. The thought struck him like a bolt of lightning. Yes, they would bring the kids. It was important for them to understand what was at stake. This was about their future too. After breakfast, he gathered the family. As they prepared to leave, he could feel a spark of hope flickering in his heart. He was not alone in this struggle. They were a family, and together they could make a difference. The walk to the town hall was a blend of excitement and trepidation, with the kids prematurely buzzing about what they might do at the meeting. When they arrived, the crowd was already buzzing. Faces he recognized, some with determination written all over them and others filled with fear. Tom waved them over, his excitement palpable. You're just in time. We've got a plan and it involves everyone. Marcus nodded, his heart racing. This was it. Their moment. They began forming groups, each responsible for drafting messages, flyers, and social media blasts. It felt like they were preparing for battle, bound by a singular purpose. As the meeting commenced, the atmosphere shifted between anxious and hopeful. Neighbors shared their stories, explaining what Supermercados BH meant to them. Marcus listened, captivated by the tales of community, friendship, and support woven into the fabric of their beloved store. But then, a man stood up. He was thin, with a weary face, and he spoke with the kind of quiet authority that commanded attention. We need to show them we're not afraid. We should hold our own rally. Draw the line right outside the developer's office. Cheers erupted. Just the idea sparked a wave of energy. Marcus's heart soared. They would take their fight public. We'll bring signs. We'll make our voices heard, he declared, the anxiety spilling out as excitement took over. It was working. The community was rallying, coming alive in ways he hadn't imagined. Conversations mixed with laughter as plans were solidified, and amidst the chaos, Marcus caught Rosa's eye. Her smile warmed him, grounding him in this whirlwind of hope. But just then, a commotion interrupted. The door swung open, and a familiar face stepped in. It was the developer himself, flanked by two large men in suits. The room fell silent as if a shadow had been cast over the gathering. Marcus felt the chill creep back over him. Nice to see you all gathered here. The developer smirked, his voice smooth and mocking. We need to talk. The tension crackled in the air, like waiting for a storm. Marcus's heart raced, a sudden urgency surging through him. They had to stand their ground right here, right now. What would he say? How would they respond? The stakes had escalated, and the battle was truly on. Would they back down, or would they find the courage to stand up to him? The room felt electric, the silence hanging thick between them like a heavy fog. Marcus's breath quickened as he processed the developer's presence. He could almost hear the heartbeat of the crowd, their collective anxiety intermingling with rising determination. Let us just take a moment. The developer purred, his voice smooth but dripping with condescension. You're all gathered here to defend a store? I assure you, your community center, the Supermercados BH, as you call it, is nothing compared to the plans I have for the future. The crowd shifted, murmurs bubbling up like a pot about to boil. Marcus couldn't let this man belittle them. Not now. What you don't understand, he said, his voice steadying as he stepped forward, is that this place is more than just a store to us. It's where we come together as a community. It's where kids play, families gather, and friendships grow. You're not just taking a building, you're taking our home. His words cut through the tension, igniting a chorus of agreement from the crowd. Yep. Someone shouted, "We won't let you take it." Rosa stood beside him, her eyes fierce. "We don't need your corporate interests here. We need our community." A ripple of support surged among those gathered, fueling Marcus's conviction. He continued, "We're rallying outside your office, and we want everyone to know that we're not backing down. We will fight for what matters to us." The developer's smirk faltered, annoyance flickering across his face. "You think a few signs will change anything? I've negotiated deals far bigger than this pitiful store. Your fight is pointless." "Maybe," Marcus replied, drawing a deep breath. "But battles are hardly ever won on the first try. Our community will stand together, and you'll see that we are more than just faces in the crowd." The room erupted into cheers, voices rising in unity, much to the developer's chagrin. Marcus felt something swell within him, a sense of pride, of belonging. This wasn't just about Supermercados BH anymore. It was about taking control of their own narrative. The developer raised a finger, his voice rising above the excitement. "I'll be back," he threatened, his tone cold, "and I expect this nonsense to be over by then." With that, he swept out of the room, the two suits trailing behind, leaving them in a stunned stillness as silence settled like a heavy blanket. Tom broke through the tension, his voice quaking with excitement. "They think they can intimidate us. We need to meet regularly and come up with our plan." Marcus felt the tide change. Their voices would no longer be silenced. They would rise like the sun each morning, and he understood what it would take. They would show the community what was at stake and inspire others to join them. As they discussed logistics and strategies, Marcus caught Rosa's eye once more. She nodded, a gentle reassurance in the chaotic aftermath of the developer's visit. The challenge ahead was daunting, but he could feel a blooming sense of hope. "Let us get the kids involved, too," he said suddenly. "They deserve to know how to fight for what they love. This is their future we're talking about." They all agreed, voices brimming with newfound determination. But just as they dove into planning their next move, whispers of doubt slithered through Marcus's thoughts. Would they be able to maintain this momentum? The question hung in the air, heavy as ever, leaving him to wonder what might be waiting around the corner. Would the community's spirit be enough to withstand the relentless pressure from the developer? Or would they discover that fighting for what they loved might come at an unforeseen cost? The next meeting was electric with energy, the air alive with purpose. Marcus arrived early, excitement thrumming in his veins as he set up the chairs in the community center. Each one represented a voice, a story that needed to be heard. He wanted to make sure everyone felt included. He looked around and smiled when he saw familiar faces coming through the door. "Can you feel it?" Tom asked as he plopped down next to Marcus, a clipboard in hand. "We're really doing this." "Yeah, it's like we're building something," Marcus replied, glancing around. "Something more than just walls and shelves." We're building solidarity. Rosa arrived just then, a bright smile lighting her face. I brought snacks, she announced, holding up a basket of cookies. The sweet aroma filled the room, softening the serious atmosphere. Laughter erupted from the gathering crowd, which felt reassuring and comforting as they began to share ideas for their demonstration outside the developer's office. Marcus's heart swelled. He was inspired by the passion that surrounded him. They mapped out slogans, colorful signs, and even a few chants to raise their voices. He placed extra emphasis on getting the kids involved, designing a children's corner filled with drawings and art supplies. The meeting unfolded like a whirlwind, gathering momentum with every new idea. But when they hit a snag in the planning, realizing no one had access to a large enough space for the demonstration, Marcus felt the ache of frustration settle in the pit of his stomach. Maybe we should approach the church, Rosa suggested. Their parking lot is big, and they'd probably support this. Great idea. Someone else chimed in. Let us call them. Another voice added, enthusiasm spreading like wildfire. Their planning evolved into something tangible, a real plan of action. Marcus felt the doubt lift like a morning haze. What they were doing mattered. They were building hope into their strategy. As the evening wore on, they shared stories, laughter, and moments of vulnerability. Old Mrs. Cabrera spoke up, her voice trembling. This store, my husband and I relied on it so much when we first came here. It was more than groceries. It was our lifeline. Tears glistened in her eyes, and the room grew quiet. Everyone felt the weight of her words, a reminder of what they were truly fighting for. Let us honor that, Marcus said, his voice steady. What we're doing is for everyone. Together, we can show how important this store is not just to us, but to the whole community. Cheers erupted once again, louder than before. The night was alive with possibility. But as Marcus headed home, exhaustion tugging at his limbs, he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning. Could they find a way around the hurdles ahead? With the developer looming like a dark cloud over them, he knew the fight wouldn't come without sacrifices. That evening, as he lay in bed, unease crept back in. What if they lost? What if all of this energy and hope resulted in nothing? His heart pounded at the thought. As dawn broke the next morning, the sense of urgency grew thicker. They needed not just to rally the community but to go beyond. Marcus needed a strategy, something larger than just their voices. Would they be bold enough to explore options he hadn't yet considered? He could almost hear the echo of the crowd's cheers, but deep inside, another question festered. What would it truly take to protect their home? The answer felt just out of reach, like a whisper caught in the wind. And as he prepared for the next meeting, he held on to the hope that soon, they might discover the power within themselves to change the course of their future. The next morning came faster than Marcus expected. He felt the weight of the vision they had cultivated at the meeting pressing on him. Today was crucial. They would be strategizing their next steps. But as he poured himself a cup of coffee, a gnawing doubt lingered in his mind. How could they truly make a difference against a developer with deep pockets? At the community center, bright sunlight streamed through the windows, making the room feel warm and inviting. When Marcus arrived, he found Tom and Rosa already setting up. Their optimism shone through every action, even as they arranged tables and chairs. Having a little pep in our step today? Rosa joked, her grin infectious. More like needing it, Marcus replied, rubbing his temples. But as he looked around, his spirits lifted. The room was filling again with people, all eager to join forces. The meeting started with a round of updates, each voice carrying shared determination. Marcus felt empowered. This was their moment. But a wave of intense anxiety washed over him as he noticed some of the older community members look uncertain. He took a deep breath. Okay, everyone, I want to talk about our strategy moving forward. We need to be more than just a voice, we need to be a force. His tone was confident, even when he felt shaky inside. What about guerrilla marketing? Suggested a young woman named Eliana. We could create buzz online or distribute flyers in the neighborhood. Great idea, Tom added, nodding vigorously. What about social media? Rosa piped in. We could record videos of our stories. People respond to that. They want to see that real emotion. Marcus felt a spark ignite within him. Yes, let us create a digital campaign. Everyone can share their stories. We'll show our neighbors what this store means to us. Highlight the memories we have, all the connections we've made. We can create that loving energy and use it as fuel to fight for this store. They began discussing how to implement these new ideas. Excitement thrumming in the air. Laughter burst out when a few younger members took the lead, planning for a flash mob that could perform in front of the developer's office. Imagining the sight, Marcus couldn't help but laugh along. But the tone shifted when old Mrs. Cabrera spoke up again. These are all such wonderful ideas. But how do we really make them listen? We can shout, we can dance, but will it change anything? A hush fell over the room. Marcus felt the weight of her question. This wasn't just a fight for the store. It was a fight for their community, and deep down, he feared what losing meant for them all. We make them listen by showing how important we are together, he finally replied, his voice steady. We are not just individuals, we're a family. Families don't back down easily. We can share our love and our pain, our hopes and fears, and connect. When they see us united, they will have to listen. Their voices filled the community center again, vibrating with passion and hope. As they brainstormed more ideas, Marcus could feel a renewed energy surging around him. They were building something powerful. But as the meeting ended, he still sensed something lurking beneath their excitement. What would happen when the confrontation finally arrived? Confidence and doubt intertwined like branches in a storm. He knew every protest was a leap into the unknown, and he couldn't shake the heavy thought of potential defeat clinging to him. Walking home later, Marcus mulled over the day's plans, his heart racing with a mix of hope and anxiety. They needed to be ready for whatever came next. Could this group of passionate people really win this fight? He glanced at the darkening sky, clouds beginning to gather. Change was brewing, but would it be a storm or a blessing? The question hung in the air as he turned the corner toward his street, a sense of urgency tightening his gut. What awaited them was uncertain, but Marcus felt an undeniable determination rise within him. They were on the brink of a game changer. The moment they would need to stand up and face their fears was fast approaching. The following day dawned with a thick fog covering the neighborhood, making the usual sights seem muted and distant. Marcus pulled his jacket tighter around him, a chill penetrating his skin that mirrored the unease in his heart. Today was the day they would begin to implement their plans. Social media posts were going live, flyers were set to be distributed, and excitement crackled in the air. But with every step, doubt snagged at him like the chilly breeze. Arriving at the community center, he saw Tom and Rosa animatedly discussing logistics. The contrast between their energy and his trepidation was stark. "Morning, Marcus," Tom exclaimed, his eyes bright. "We're on track. Ready to make some noise?" "Yeah." About that, Marcus hesitated, finding it hard to spool out his concerns. What if it doesn't work? What if we scream into the void and no one listens? Rosa's smile faltered for a heartbeat. "If we don't try, we definitely won't be heard," she reminded him gently. "Our store doesn't just serve food. It feeds the community spirit. We have to believe in that." His heart warmed slightly at Rosa's words. She had a gift for grounding him when his thoughts spiraled. Taking a deep breath, he nodded. "Right. We have to at least put ourselves out there." As they gathered in a circle, the buzz of anticipation filled the room, an almost electric feeling. Marcus could see the younger members prepping their phones, ready to capture the stories of the old ones who had frequented the store for years. The flickering of excitement slowly ignited his own passion once again. "Let us start with the stories," Marcus suggested, stepping into the center of the circle. "Who has a memory they want to share?" One by one, people stepped forward, words tumbling out as they reminisced about discovering new foods, picking up groceries while chatting with friends, or celebrating special occasions. Laughter and tears mingled as emotions flowed from one person to another. Marcus felt the weight of his fears begin to lift. When Mrs. Cabrera stood and shared her memory of setting up a community potluck by the store, Everyone listened intently. Her voice was shaky but filled with warmth. There was always love in that store. Not just food, she said, wiping away a tear and causing many in the room to do the same. We have to show them that we are not just customers. We are a family. They can't take that away from us. The room filled with murmurs of agreement. Marcus's heart raced. It was so simple yet powerful. They were not fighting just for bricks and mortar. They were fighting for their shared identity. As the stories wrapped up, they moved on to brainstorming promotional tactics. Ideas flew around like sparks. Plans for short videos capturing their stories took shape. With each suggestion, Marcus felt the grip of doubt loosen just a bit more. But as the ideas tumbled out, a shadow crossed Marcus's face. The idea of being vulnerable on social media felt like standing naked in front of a crowd ready to judge. What if we pour our hearts out and no one cares? He voiced, his anxiety creeping back. The room grew quiet. Then we still have each other, Rosa said firmly. This isn't just about the likes or followers. It's about connecting, it's about courage. We're doing this for ourselves first. Her words hit him like a jolt. There was truth in what she said. It wasn't about the accolades. It was about authenticity. They could touch hearts if not at that moment. Then perhaps someday. As they wrapped up the meeting, a sense of solidarity enveloped Marcus like a warm blanket. They were stepping into the unknown, but together. Each heart beating with purpose, ready to face the developer and whatever was coming next. Outside, the clouds hung low, as if mirroring the tension brewing within him. Yet, as a few brave rays of sunlight peeked through, he caught a glimpse of what could be a shared victory, a community standing strong, and just as he turned to leave, the crack of thunder rolled through the sky, echoing the storm of uncertainty yet to come. Would they be able to harness the power of their words and memories, or would doubt drown them out in the end? The answer loomed just ahead, urgent and tantalizing. As Marcus stepped outside, he felt the dampness in the air, a reminder of the storm brewing not just in the sky, but within his heart. The community center faded behind him, but the echo of passionate voices lingered, solidifying his purpose. It was time to bring all that energy into play. The fog hadn't lifted completely, still wrapping around him like a shroud. Yet in it lay a potent sense of newfound determination. With every step, he envisioned their plans unfolding. The posts gaining traction, people sharing their stories, the community coming together. But doubt still threw shadows in his mind. What if their efforts were for naught? What if the world didn't care as much as they did? He quickened his pace, shaking off those thoughts, willing himself to focus on the rising tide of hope. His phone dinged in his pocket, pulling him back to the present. It was a message from Rosa. Are you still at it? The flyers are waiting. Her energy was contagious, the way she believed in the fight. He responded right away, on my way. When he arrived back at the community center, the atmosphere buzzed. Tom was up on a step stool, finishing the last of the flyers. Young volunteers filled the room, arranging stacks of printed flyers and brainstorming ideas for their social media launch. It was a lively, cozy chaos that made Marcus smile. Perfect timing, Tom called down with a grin. We were just about to get started on the video shoot. You ready to share your story? His heart raced at the thought. The spotlight felt daunting, but he also felt a swell of support around him. They were all in this together. Let us do it, he heard himself say, his voice steadier than he felt inside. They gathered in front of a makeshift backdrop, a collage of images from the store's past. Faces of friends, families, and shared meals stared back at him, reminding Marcus of the love embedded in every corner of that store. As they prepped the cameras, he watched people step forward, sharing their memories, each one a little piece of the big story they were crafting. When it was his turn, he hesitated, the weight of his vulnerability pressing down on him. But he could hear Mrs. Cabrera's voice saying they were a family. He steadied himself, focusing on the warmth of that sentiment. I've grown up here, he began, his voice catching for a brief moment. Our store was more than just a place to buy groceries. It's where connections were made, laughter was shared, and love was served with every meal. We're not just fighting for a building, we're fighting for our home. The words poured out, and as he spoke, he felt the reality of them settle in, bright and clear. The group erupted in applause when he finished, a wave of affirmation crashing over him. Despite the storm clouds outside, inside, they felt like they could conquer anything. After several takes and countless laughter, they finished filming. The excitement in the room was palpable, and it fueled Marcus with joy. He took in the smiling faces around him, some excited, some still slightly apprehensive. Hope mingled with fear, a fragile blend but so very present. They were moving forward as they wrapped up the night. Tom chimed in again. "Tomorrow we push our first posts live." Marcus nodded, the weight of uncertainty still there, but lightened by the warmth of their connection. The storm outside had softened to a drizzle as they filed out. But he knew this was only the beginning. Tension settled deep in his stomach as he realized tomorrow would bring the world into their story. How would people react? Would they embrace it or turn their backs? Standing in the fading light of day, Marcus took a deep breath, wrestling with the unknown. Tomorrow felt monumental, but one question nagged at him. Would they be ready for whatever came next? That thought lingered as the clouds swirled above, promising more challenges ahead. Would they be able to face it together? The day of the online launch arrived, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Marcus woke with a mix of excitement and fear crashing around in his chest. He could see the sun breaking through the clouds outside, washing everything in a golden glow, a promising sign. As Mia and Noah darted around, bursting with energy, Marcus held his breath, preparing for the storm of emotions heading his way. The community center was alive with chatter and laughter. He stepped inside to find Rosa sharing encouragement, pointing at screens as people readied their posts. One by one, faces filled with determination, ready to share their stories with the world. Marcus felt electricity in the room, a sense of belonging that chased away shadows clinging to him. Today is the day. Let us make our voices impossible to ignore, he called, his own excitement surging. Cheers erupted, confidence flooding through their collective spirit. Tom stood by, adjusting his camera. Let us go live. We've got this. The energy bounced off the walls, vibrating with hope. With a simple click, they were connected to an audience beyond the community, a chance to spread their message. As the first post hit the internet, a wave of anticipation turned into a tidal wave of reactions. Notifications popped up on everyone's phones, likes, shares, and the sweet sound of supportive comments flowed in like a rushing river. Nobody had anticipated this powerful response. Rosa watched as the numbers climbed, her face glowing with happiness. Look at this. People care. They're sharing their own memories. It was like watching seeds sprout in a garden long overlooked, brightening the landscape of their fight. Through the chaos, Marcus caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. Each one held stories layered with love and resilience. Old Mrs. Cabrera had even shared her memories through a video, her voice trembling yet firm. Supermercados BH fed my family and our spirits. It's our heart. Tears welled in Marcus's eyes as he absorbed the wave of emotions rushing through the room. This wasn't just about a store anymore. It was about family, about unity, about the soul of a community that wouldn't back down as the day wore on. The developer finally took notice. News outlets picked up the story, local blogs buzzing with interest. Voices from outside their community began to echo their sentiments, and the thought surprised Marcus. Would others stand alongside them? Were they ready to join the fight? Yet, amid the celebrations, uncertainty lingered. The threat loomed larger than ever, and Marcus felt a familiar tightness in his chest. This was only the beginning, and he wondered if their strength could withstand the backlash that might come. The next day, however, brought a fresh wave of surprise. As they gathered to discuss their next steps, the murmur of excitement hung in the air. A large contingent from nearby neighborhoods, inspired by their bravery, showed up to offer support. They were ready to march, rallying around a vision that began at Supermercados BH. Together we can do this. Let us show the developer that they can't bulldoze over us. Someone shouted. The room erupted in cheers, the atmosphere electric. They were no longer just fighting for one store. They were transforming into a movement, one that had the power to change their fate. Days turned into weeks as they turned ideas into reality, crafting more memories and deepening connections. The community grew stronger, each event stirring up engagement and support. They planned a rally to demonstrate their resistance, reaching even more people beyond their neighborhood. The day of the rally dawned bright and clear, as people filled the streets with homemade signs, chanting for their beloved Supermercados BH. Marcus could hardly believe the transformation happening around him. The sense of belonging sprouted wings. Everyone felt seen and heard as the developer's office came into view. Nerves prickled at the back of Marcus's mind. But looking at the sea of faces standing beside him, he felt an anchoring warmth. This was bigger than him. It was an idea that united them all. When they reached the developer's office, voices rang loud against the cold glass facade. Together, they raised their signs high, a riot of color and emotion pouring out into the world. They stood with their heads held high, reclaiming their community, igniting hope where despair once lingered. And as Marcus joined in the chants, he felt something shift deep within. This fight was more than a struggle, it was about love and resilience. It was about standing strong for tomorrow, for his kids, for every family that relied on a place like Supermercados BH. Tears flowed freely as joy and pride enveloped him. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Their voices echoed through the streets, powerful and unwavering. Together, they were an unstoppable force, transforming challenges into triumph. And as the sun set on that unforgettable day, Marcus realized he wasn't just fighting for a store. He was building a legacy, a heartbeat that would resonate through the years, wrapping around their community like a warm embrace, a constant reminder of the power that connection holds. This was their win, but behind it was a journey that continued to unfold. They were forever changed, bound together by acceptance and newfound hope. Now, their stories were out in the world. The battle had only just begun, but they had carved their place, howling against the winds of change. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire your own journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm seriously. It makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to stand together. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our community.